What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande, bringing you the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS live stream here on Monday for 7-game slate. And James, it's already shaping up to be an interesting one. We knew, of course, the injuries that we're waiting on. Bradley Beal is going to be a game-time decision. We're also finding out we're getting the return of D'Angelo Russell tonight, albeit off the bench and limited. James Harden came into the day as questionable. He is going to be active and playing, not even on the injury report today. I think we're still waiting on the Fred VanVleet news. Is that correct, or did that come down by now?
Still waiting.
Still waiting on that. So I mean, listen, there's a lot to get to. It's a 7-game slate. Some decent game total. Sacramento, Minnesota, 237 there. Minnesota, they're without a lot of players. We mentioned that D'Angelo Russell is going to come back and be limited, but Michael Beasley,
Wait, John, I lied. Fred VanVleet is out. My apologies. Officially ruled out.
Out. Nice.
Malachi Flynn expected to start in his place.
Of course, whatever. And that's fine. Whatever. Kristaps Porzingis is doubtful though. So if you're a Melly fan, fire him up. He's getting ready to be out there today. Going to be a good spot for him. But we talked about, Ricky Rubio is doubtful, and Beasley is doubtful, and Noel is doubtful. So all of these guys are going to open up a lot of opportunity here in Minnesota tonight. 237 game total there going up against Sacramento. It's going to be probably the popular game to stack outside of that Washington-Toronto game. I was already big on Siakam. We'll get through the playbook, but having no FEV is going to help that out even more today. James, any initial thoughts for this slate for you?
No, but with the amount of injuries, it doesn't feel like 7 games. It feels like every team in the NBA is playing with this grocery list of injuries. Also, just to note, Thunder 8 active players this evening. Maladon, Mihailuk, Williams, Pokachevsky, Moses Brown, Ty Jerome, Darius Miller, Tony Bradley, as they expect to waive Justin Jackson. So they have 8 available players once again for this evening's game.
Should be interesting for us Kendrick Williams stands, right? To get
yes,
and
for sure,
and to get him some playing time. But James, I did the playbook today, right? So I'm already well versed in everything that's going on here. So I'm going to ask you, in your opinion, on some of these guys as we run through it today. At the point guard position, listen, we're waiting on the Beal news. He's a game time decision, But at the top, we have Russell Westbrook here. We have Luka Doncic. We have Kyrie Irving. Those 3 guys are the more expensive point guards on FanDuel. At least we know James Harden is a point guard on DraftKings. But where are you looking? What's your opinion on Westbrook with Beal, without Beal? Where does he rank for a top spend up for you?
He's amongst the top spend ups, I think, with or without Beal. Obviously, he's number 1 clear cut without Beal. We've seen it repeatedly this year, and Toronto's a bad defensive unit who just kind of got worse with the absences of VanVleet and Lowry. I would probably put him behind. Hard not to like Luka without Porzingis, even a tough matchup. Hard to not like Karl-Anthony Towns. And love both of those guys. Hard to not love Towns in recent form of going up against the Kings. And hard to not love Harden, not on the injury report, in a tough matchup. If Beal is active, he's a top 3, top 4 spend up. I wouldn't say he is the clear-cut number 1 like he is if Beal's out. So if Beal's out, he's number 1. I would put him in the top 3 or 4 in no particular order, just in the top 3 or 4 if Beal does play.
Okay. For me, my next guy after Westbrook, really, I wasn't much interested in Luka tonight, but I guess that's changing, right?
Right.
Porzingis is now out. So, I think we now have to put him more into that conversation. It is a tough matchup, though. It's up against Utah. Now, they're not in Utah, but we know Utah has been a tough draw for a lot of teams this season. Does Luka gain, is he worthy of consideration on tonight's slate as a core play? We obviously know he's always like a contrarian or a pivot spot. He's never a bad time to use Luka, but you're looking at recent game logs. Haven't been great. He hasn't cracked 50 fantasy points in a while now. But that opportunity is available to him without Porzingis there.
It's definitely hard to ignore a 37% usage at 1.47 if you want to round up 1.5 fantasy points per minute from anybody. And we're talking about not just anybody here. So, yeah, I do think Luka should be in our player pool and considered an elite spend up despite the tough matchup. I talk about it all the time. elite players in tough spots win tournaments sometimes, and this could be one of those scenarios where we get Luka at low ownership because of the tough spot, and if they do, put up a fight against Utah, it's going to be on the shoulders of Luka Doncic. So I do think he's in play for tournaments. I prefer Russ in cash. I prefer De'Aaron Fox in cash games. If you
Love
are
Fox tonight for sure,
right, if you're spending up, but I do think there's a strong reason why you would want to play Luka in a tournament tonight for sure.
Yep, I'm with you there. If we're looking in the mid tier, like or value, even we're just going Jordan McLaughlin right tonight, right? Does D'Angelo Russell being active even for a little bit? I mean, they said he's going to be on a real minutes limit. We've seen coaches obviously say that all year long, but I mean, I have to believe at least this time he's not playing more than 15 minutes, right? Like I can't.
We haven't seen him in 2 months. He hasn't played in 2 months, so yeah, I don't see a scenario. And plus, like there are like really banged up. Like it's not just Beasley still listed as doubtful, Noel still listed as doubtful, Rubio still listed as doubtful. So all these guys out. So yeah, I still think McLaughlin is firmly in play. I guess my interest, and wouldn't say interest, but like Malachi Flynn did have a really strong game in that 50-point win against Golden State. Do we trust it? Because John, I don't want to play Malachi Flynn, but the kicker is it's Washington, right? It's a pace-up spot. It's against a bottom 5 defense in the league. Everyone's going to flock to Malachi Flynn, right? So do we head up to the 6? Do we hit up Drake? And do we roster Malachi Flynn tonight? I think for me, I would probably put him a little ahead of McLaughlin based on salary, based on, honestly, who's just there. They don't have anybody else.
Yeah, I'm leaning with you, right? Like the lack of options in the recent play and the fact that that he's going to be mid-price pretty much everywhere he's playing. I think you're going to have to go there, 30 minutes against Golden State, 33 fantasy points, as you mentioned. Yeah, I think he's a fair option. I think he's a good pivot. It's a great spot, obviously, going up against the Wizards. So, we're expecting a lot of points in those games. Both games really the two highest in the slate. In terms of game totals, 237 Sacramento, Minnesota, 227 the Wizards, Toronto. So I agree with you. I think it's an interesting spot. He's going to start, like you mentioned. We know he played 30 minutes already, so nothing to say he's not going to get that similar type of run as well. Shooting guard on FanDuel, obviously it's James Harden, right? Like there's no real question. When he's on the floor, when he's healthy, he's a walking 60 to 70 fantasy points. We have talked a lot about matchups against the Knicks, though. And they play slow. They play, good defense. He only went for 56 fantasy points in a triple-double against the Knicks earlier in March. Is there any hesitation for you with Harden here, or is he just a lock and load go?
It's funny you had to go back and say only twice. I mean, a little hesitation. I think there are a few guys that can be matchup proof. That are matchup proof, and Harden's one of them. So, you can definitely.
Singer officially ruled out. So.
Yep. Definitely. I mean, I do think Luke is on our radar. Let's just say that one more time. With Porzingis out, I do think he should be on our radar. But in regards to Harden, no, I think he is a top. Again, I think he's grouped up with Westbrook, Towns, as the top spends of the slate. So if you want to go to Harden, be my guest. I think we're going to get him at lower ownership than we have lately, right? He's going to be – we've seen him pretty much every slate 50% owned or higher. I suspect that's in the 20s tonight, maybe even the 30s. So, maybe you leverage him against one of the other top spend-ups and he goes for 65 or only 65 tonight.
Only 65, right. Only 65 I think is fair, all right? I think that's fair. Donovan Mitchell against Dallas. Again, we've talked a lot about Donnie Mitchell lately. It really doesn't matter the matchup as long as he's not getting blown out, I guess, right? He had 39 and 20 minutes against Orlando, but he's largely been giving us, 40-plus fantasy points for a stretch now. Where do you rank him with the likes of, DeMar DeRozan, Colin Sexton, kind of all priced in that similar, price range?
I think Mitchell is interesting, and I think what you could do if you do end up using Luka. I think Mitchell's a perfect candidate to run it back on the other side, because if you're playing Luka, you have expectations as this game stays close, and we're playing Donovan Mitchell with expectations that this game stays close too. So I do think he makes for a good stacking option in tournaments with Luka Doncic and whoever else you want to mix and match in that game. There's obviously a lot of value on the Dallas side with Porzingis out. I like Sexton. I mentioned it on the pod. I think that he looks really good right now. I know Kevin Love has returned, but that really hasn't impacted him. If anything, it's just another another avenue to take some of the burden off of Sexton's shoulders, offensively at least. And Sexton's responded 4 straight games of 20 plus actual points and 4 straight games of 30 or more fantasy points. So I do think Sexton's pretty good, and DeRozan, who FanDuel and DraftKings will never, big brother, little brother, who's right, who's wrong in terms of position eligibility, small forward on DraftKings. He's looked really good too, and the matchup against Cleveland is ideal as well. So I like them both. I like Mitchell the most in tournaments because I do like Luka, and I do think that Luka could keep this game close. And I'm saying Luka because he is, probably the sole reason that Dallas would keep it close. So I like Mitchell, but I do like the other guys quite a bit as well.
Good. Anthony Edwards, 40 minutes the other night, right?
Yeah. He's all formats. Even with Russell back, and you mentioned it when you were talking about McLaughlin, it's going to be a slow return for Russell, and Minnesota has a bunch of guys out. Edwards is going to take a whole bunch of shots, and it's the best matchup on the board. The Kings are dead last in defensive rating as a team. Yes, they've gotten a little better, but Edwards he's really, even on bad shooting nights, which he's improved greatly on, might I add, 46% over his last 6 games, 39% on the year. So, improving in one aspect of his game. He's really bulletproof right now. I mentioned it on the pod, though. Those playing on DraftKings, the point guard eligible Anthony Edwards now. So interesting position change over there.
I was really interested in Hamidou Diallo today. A little bit of revenge game. They don't have Plumlee. They don't have Ellington. Maybe there's an opportunity for him to, have a productive night. He's $5,200, $5,600, but now with Van Vliet being ruled out, Gary Trent for me, I think, just become sort of that lower mid-tier shooting guard that I have my eye on.
Yeah, I love him on FanDuel, and I'm not going to say I don't like him on DraftKings, but 66 is a pretty tough pill to swallow. I guess if he has gone for 40 plus fantasy points in 2 straight and 32 and 3 or more, 32 or more in 3 straight. The production's been there, but 6,600, man, that's crazy for Gary Trent, John. Even being a Gary Trent guy, you have to admit it's a little up there.
It's a little up there, but look at his recent play, though. His recent play has been fantastic. Over 40 fantasy points in two games. I mean, he's getting the usage. Now no Lowry, no Van Vliet. He's going to take 20 shots probably, right? It's Siakam, it's OG is the 2 primary scorers. Fair. And I guess Flynn, right? I guess he's going to be involved offensively too, but I'm just big on Trent tonight. I still liked Diallo prior to that as well, though. So,
I think Diallo's a good play. I actually think the guys on the other side of this game for OKC are interesting, just based on necessity, right? Svi, I know, is priced up a little bit, but how does he not play 30 minutes? Or Ty Jerome, and we just saw Ty Jerome miss time, come back on a second leg of a back-to-back, play 26 minutes. Kendrick has shooting guard eligibility. I know he's probably listed as a small forward on FanDuel. And I see him in your playbook at small forward, so maybe a good time to transition. But I do think the guys in OKC could be interesting. Detroit's defense sucks, and again, 8 guys available.
Could be a game for Svi.
Revenge
20 plus minutes in 4 straight games, and you're talking again sort of a revenge narrative going the other way. A team that traded him.
Yep. I like that call, and I do think this could be. I think this could be the minute ceiling that we saw the other day from Svi in that Toronto game where he played 36. I think we could see a similar minute output from that one.
At small forward, I said OG was already one of my core plays. I think, he's, again, that nothing has changed from that front, but I just love him even more. I mean, this is just a lock and load play for me. He's shown he gave us 47 fantasy points the other day against the Thunder, just showing that ceiling that he has. He's great on FanDuel because he gives you all the defensive stats, but now we're looking at back-to-back games of 20 actual point scoring. He's got 2 games of 10 or more rebounds in the last 4. So, like, he's filling it up. He's doing it all. He's showing you sort of like a breakout season for him all of a sudden since he came back from his injury. So I'm all in. He's the most expensive small forward on FanDuel tonight at $7,000. Just kind of speaks to the position. But, lock and load OG for me.
Yeah, I don't really need to add. I think he's the top small forward on the slate, at least in terms of high-priced plays. Probably just in general.
I think he's going to be super. I mean, it's just that price point just too easy, and on free duel especially, it's going to be too easy to fit him in there. But I mean, like if you're not going there, like you have R.J. Barrett going up against the Nets, you got Kevin Porter still, though tough matchup against Phoenix, and they're on I think a back-to-back as well. There is no John Wall. Porter is going to play his 30+ minutes. Buddy Hield is now a small forward over on FanDuel. $5,800 for him. Under $6K against Minnesota is super appealing to me. Again, I know recent form has been a little bit down in terms of ceiling production, but like this could certainly be a game where he kind of brings that ceiling about. So like those guys for me in that 7 to 6K range all kind of stand out.
Yeah, Porter and Hield for me for tournaments for sure. I see you have Porter listed as a cash play. Only reason I say tournaments is because does Houston keep it close? Phoenix blows everyone out, right? So
yeah, I just don't think there's anybody behind.
He's gonna play minutes regardless. I know DJ Augustine's there, but they're gonna play They're gonna play Porter over Augustine.
Yeah, so for me it was just like the minutes floor. I felt like made him safe. Like I don't think this is a ceiling game for him, which is why I wasn't really throwing him in a GPP. Like I don't think he's gonna pop. But like he gives you 25 to 30 fantasy points at 6K. Like that's your 5x. So
right.
Kind of why I had him there. I didn't think this was gonna be an opportunity for ceiling for him. You mentioned Kenrich Williams, $4,700 on FanDuel. I think is a great play. Again, we've been standing Kenrich for a while now. What do you think about Jeff Green tonight? The last 2 games for him, really, really strong performances. Blake Griffin's out. Do you think there's still a role for him with Harden back?
John, before we are at small forward. So Malik Beasley, 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
He will miss 4 to 6 weeks. So big news out of Minnesota. The hits keep coming over there.
You just missed 12 games. So.
Just missed 12 games, and now a lot more to come. You asked me about Julie. Did we move to power forward? And you asked.
Oh, we're still in small forward. I asked.
Oh, Jeff Green. Jeff Green.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they rolled out a whole bunch of guys on the back-to-back. So, old Jeff Green still doing it, man. And the scoring has been there. The only problem is the scoring has been there with no James Harden. But I mean, James Harden isn't shy to set his teammates up. So, it could be another repeat performance out of Jeff Green. I told you this on the pod. I don't love attacking the Knicks just based on how slow this game is going to be played at. The pace is going to be dreadful. Even a Brooklyn game is 217.5, and we haven't seen that a lot in terms of Vegas total. So I think he's okay. Don't love it, don't hate it. The production has been there for him, though.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And Denny, I think Denny with Rui ruled out and we don't know the Beal status, somebody that needs to be in on our radar tonight as well. At power forward, you mentioned Julius Randle. I like him on FanDuel as a cash game play, 9K. There's probably some GPP upside there as well, for sure. I'm not touching him on DraftKings, though. He's just too expensive for me, especially knowing that Van Vliet news now. Like Siakam, I said in the playbook, was like my favorite power forward. Like it just solidifies that for me.
How many Raptors would you play in one lineup tonight, John?
At least 3.
Because you're plugging.
I'm playing Trent, Siakam, and OG probably
So you could then that means you might be playing 4 because Malachi's 3,500.
Right.
Like you could get away with playing 4 Raptors tonight.
Yeah. I think against the Wizards, like it's ideal scenario. We love stacking against the Wizards, and we're getting as many players as we can against them tonight. So. I'm with it. I'm buying all in here. And you know what? It even gives probably makes it easier to throw Russell Westbrook on the way back in that game.
I was going to say, run back. You just run it back with Westbrook, and you run it back with Westbrook.
What more do you even need? So, I'm in 100% agree with you. And kudos to FanDuel for having Malachi Flynn as a point guard and not like a power forward or something like that. So you can have him at the right position.
Salute to you for
right. The most basic job that is required of you, getting the position correct. You can definitely run that back again. I'm big on Siakam and all of those guys today. So below them, I'm not in on Christian Wood. I know it's a good matchup against Ayton. I just don't like Phoenix. And the sort of the tier below them is more interesting to me. Again, Jeremy Grant going up against the Thunder, little revenge game. There's no Plumlee. I find that appealing. I know he's been inconsistent, but I think this is a ceiling game potentially for him. Poku still playing really well. 20 points actual in 2 of the last 3 games. I know Tony Bradley exists, there now for them, but like you said, there's 8 players, and it seems like Bradley's impacting Moses more than it is Poku. Yep. So you can kind of lock and load him for me with no Isaiah Roby tonight. He's under $6,000. And then Jaden McDaniels for me, 5,100 on FanDuel. That's just a guy we've been loving on a lot lately.
Yeah, and the scoring has come around. We know the peripheral stats in terms of defense, and he gets Sacramento the cherry on top. So this lower tier at power forward is super elite. And half of them are centers on DraftKings, and that's right. That's the difference because
Isaiah Stewart is a $3,700 power forward on FanDuel. So you can build whatever you really want.
And Tony Bradley's on power forward on FanDuel as well, correct?
He is, yep, power forward as well on FanDuel. Because we call it free duel all the time, the lineup I just made over on FanDuel tonight gets all the guys you want. It gets everybody. You couldn't have made a more perfect lineup tonight.
More perfect
than what I just put on the board. So kudos to them for making my life a lot easier.
Kudos to you. Kudos to you for winning all that money ahead of time.
Kudos to my big brain for building the lineup that I just built. Expect plenty of screenshots later in the $1 contest that I entered. Let's go over to you mentioned elites, all right? We're talking about Stewart, obviously. Kevin Love, I think, even on they said he's going to continue to be on a minutes limit, but he played 23 the other day and had a double-double. So, he's going to play 20 to 25. I think that's what they have him locked in on. Taj Gibson is still playing really well. He's a power forward over on FanDuel. He's under $5,000. Am I missing anybody in your brain there?
I mean, you talked about him at the opening. Nicolo Melli, John.
Nicolo Melli, right.
Throwing Melli off the board, come on, man.
I forgot. I was too excited about everything else I put together that I forgot all about our guy Melli.
And pushed for him to be the cover today, and Matt Sells, our producer, thank you, Matt, had to slow you down, but you were pushing for that. Don't forget.
You know what? 28 minutes, 10, 8, and 3 the other day. Against the Wizards. Sure, why not go to him? But hey, Zinger's out. We'll just go to center. We'll talk about the center that we all want to play tonight. That's Boban. Boban, he got 24 minutes the other day or whatever it was. And we talked about this on the podcast. If Zinger was out and Boban starts again, he's a fantasy point per minute freak. He's $4,500. So would you rather play $11,000 Karl Anthony Towns against the Kings or $4,500 Boban against Utah and fit in Harden and Westbrook in your lineup?
Probably the latter. I would like to know if Boban's starting because we said it on the pod. This seems like a matchup that he could, right? Gobert is athletic, but he's not someone who's going to be out on the perimeter. He's not someone that he spends all his time around the rim. Boban
Here's an interesting one here, James. Ricky Rubio is available to play after being doubtful all day. Jalen Noel officially ruled out.
I mean, that just officially put the nail in the coffin of Malachi Flynn being the highest owned player of the slate. Because now all that ownership that was once on Jordan McLaughlin has now shifted all to Malachi Flynn. Now that $900 is just going to be allocated everywhere. But, I mean, that has to make Malachi Flynn the most popular play of the slate. He's $3,500.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that now Rubio could just as easily just be like a warm body, right? They need healthy people, so they had to go in that direction. But interesting to see interesting to see him now active again after being doubtful for most of the day.
It would be tough though to like. I agree. It could be like a scenario where like he dresses because they need him to dress, but it would be a tough sell for anyone to make like, all right, you should still play Jordan McLaughlin over Malachi Flynn, even with Rubio and D'Angelo Russell active.
So I'll say you can still play McLaughlin if he's starting over Rubio.
Fine. Fair.
That would be my qualification there. Doesn't change anything for me on anybody else. Still like Edwards, still like all those guys.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're playing them with an active Rubio to begin with. So
right. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. So that's the Boban argument. Obviously, Towns is the guy that's at the top. He was the cover of the playbook, cover of the podcast. He's giving us 50 or 60 fantasy points now for like 6 or 7 straight games. It's the Kings. It's a great matchup. Everything is boding. He played 44 minutes the other day because they just don't have anybody else. Like, it just all the direction goes towards Karl-Anthony Towns here.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say is, like, I think he is as good as advertised right now. The only thing I'll say is I think it's easier to play him on FanDuel because all of this value is on DraftKings at center is a power forward on FanDuel, whereas, like, Isaiah Stewart, Robin Lopez, Boban, Tony Bradley are all $4,500 or
you can play 2 of them at least on DraftKings.
Can play 2 of them, but like I guess that comes down to how you want to construct your roster because I am definitely playing Isaiah Stewart as one of those guys. Like Isaiah Stewart, locked and loaded on DraftKings for me. We've seen great production, and he's $4,000. Like he could 10x tonight. So like that would be the decision, right? I do think Karl-Anthony Towns is a top 3 spend up with the slate. I guess it just depends on how you construct your roster and how things. I just think it's easier to use Towns on FanDuel because you don't need to worry about playing Isaiah Stewart and Towns at center because Isaiah Stewart he's a power forward on FanDuel.
Right. So I agree with you there.
Just my 2 cents there.
Yeah, no, totally. What if we're going to mid tier? Like I like Jakob Poeltl a lot tonight, going up against Kevin Love for 20 minutes, and then Hartenstein, who's hack at Hartenstein basically at this point, fouling everybody. I think Poeltl for me is probably my mid tier guy. Like, yeah, Rashawn Holmes has a good matchup going up against Towns on the flip side. If you're game stacking, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and put him in there. But like for me, like you mentioned, it's like Towns at the top. It's Poeltl in the middle for me. In value, now like you mentioned, on FanDuel at least, there's Sideshow Bob is there putting up really strong production lately. Boban, if he's starting, is obviously quite interesting there as well. And I think Kelly Olynyk is a center also. He's a $5,300 center. He played the start of the second half with House out yesterday. 33 minutes, 43 fantasy points. I know it's the matchup against the Suns, which is always what we're afraid of, but I mean, he's gone for over 43 fantasy points in 2 of the last 4 games. So, like, where are you on Kelly O today?
I mean, it's a tournament play. I do think he's in play. I think, like, other than Jakob Poeltl and Rashawn Holmes, who I think are both viable, Kelly O and LaMarcus Aldridge were the 2 names that popped for me, and we like attacking Knicks centers. Aldridge has looked good in his Brooklyn Threads, and we know there's no Blake Griffin either. So, like, those 2 would be the 2 tournament, pivots for me in the mid-tier at center. And, again, don't think we need to go there, but if you're looking to be different, that's the way to do it. Play Aldridge, play Olynyk, because they both have a lot of upside. Again, like you just said, Olynyk went for 26 actual last night. When his shot is falling, he took 13 threes. Like, that's not – like, he could take 13 threes again and hit 8 of them, and then we're talking about a GPP winner. So I like Olynyk. I like Aldridge if you're being different in the mid-tier.
I'm with you on that one. Any final thoughts here, James, before we wrap it up?
No, 50 minutes until roster lock, and good luck to everybody else.
Hope we get that Beal news soon.
Yep.
All right, guys. We'll catch you guys later. We'll be in chat, obviously, so talk to you then.